Okay, I'm back. We're back. It's the Eline Podcast Live. I'm Mark Rose. We have Ellie, and we have a special guest, Carl Hitchborn. Welcome, 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 Carl.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Ali. It's great to be with you. Looking forward to having a chat.
Yeah, so Carl, you've been like in the music industry for what, over 14 years, right?
Yes, it's going back 2009.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it's been a journey to here, and I look forward to giving you a summary of the journey so far, and then talk about what I'm doing next.
Yeah,
And
we're excited.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because you're from the UK, right?
yes. So I'm from a city in the UK called Norwich, which does not have any music industry. It's a quiet place that doesn't really have much of an entertainment base at all. So um, yeah, I had a bakery business originally. So I
Oh, wow.
I had a family bakery business I was involved in, and I got to a place where I wasn't able to make the impact that I wanted to make in the world, and so I decided that I would get into the music business because music connects with every human on earth. And so I felt that if I could make a wave in the music business, then I could make a wave on a global scale. So that was my trigger. I didn't know anything about the music business. I didn't know anyone in the music business. I can't play any instruments. I can't sing. But that was my calling, was to say, music is probably one of the most powerful medium of communication in existence. And you know, not so much even the lyrics, just the actual music itself, the vibrations of the music and how that connects to us, the melodies and the sound waves. It doesn't matter what culture you're in, what language you speak, the melody, the actual music can resonate with you and connect to your soul. So I felt like music would be a place where I could make a big impact in the world. And so that was the beginning of this journey to now.
Yeah, I like you mentioning the frequencies. I remember like being a kid and listening to music, and there would be like songs that I wouldn't even like know the lyrics, or I didn't even pay attention to the lyrics, but the actual sounds and the melodies really just got me into like a really good groove. So I like the way you mentioned that. So
Yeah.
okay, so you're in the UK, you started like a bakery, you got into the music industry. So what exactly do you do in the mu music industry?
Yeah, I mean that's a really interesting question and not always easy to answer because um going back to the beginning, my original idea was I was making a little bit of money in the bakery business, and so I just started to connect with people in London in the industry and said, I have a bakery business, I'm making some surplus money, I want to create a music company. I don't really know how that looks because I'm learning about the music business. I'm not sure the structure and the different types of rights, and so I'm learning, but I have a little bit of capital. I want to invest into artists. I want to help them to build their businesses, and and so I started to connect with songwriters, producers, promoters, different people, and I started just to cold email people and say like, "Hey, this is what I'm doing." And some people would come back and say, "Sure, come and meet with us, and we can have a meeting and chat." And so that's what I started to do. I started going from Norwich to London, which is about a 2 hour on the train to get to London, and and I just started to learn about the industry and started to discover how it operated and what the different nuances were across the different rights that there are in the music industry and the different sectors within the industry. Because obviously it's quite a complex business. There's lots of layers. You have the labels, you have music publishers that deal with the compositions, the songs, you have managers, you have agents that book shows, you have the promoters that run the shows. And then you have all of the different team members that can operate inside of the industry. So there's a lot of different parts to the industry. And very early doors, I realized I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like how the industry operated. I didn't like the business models that the major record labels had. But even the entire industry, I didn't like the way that the industry was structured. So it was I found it to be very fragmented and not holistic. It's like different parties would control different parts of the artist's business, and they would have the rights to the part of the business that they controlled. And they wouldn't really care about the whole business. They just cared about the one section that they control. And so you had a situation where it's really hard to make the perfect plan because basically, the rights, they're not, if one entity has control of one section of the rights, they're not interested in the other section. So when you try to make a plan, you end up in a scenario where everyone is trying to put their point across based upon their perception of what's important, which is for them is what their rights are. That's it. They don't care about anything else because they don't get a return on those parts. Okay. Now, so that means that artists are in a position where they cannot necessarily have the perfect plan. They have to have a compromise. They have to keep compromising on the plan in order to get going. And that's never a good idea in any universe, whatever you're doing. You want to be able to pick the perfect plan and you want to be able to execute the perfect plan. You don't want to be going back to plan B, C, D, E, F. You want to be picking the perfect plan. And so, it took me a while to go through the industry to get to a place where I was able to really demonstrate my idea of how the model should be. So that the journey involved working with different projects and learning about the industry as I went. And then with one of the projects, I worked with a band called Coast from the UK. We ended up partnering with Warner Music and Universal Music. Universal for the US and Warner Music for the rest of the world. And before we did the partnership, we had a reasonable amount of success independently. So every single that we released, we had more traction, we sold more tickets for shows, we were really building more and more success each time we released music. And then we did a partnership with the majors, and at that moment was when we had a lot more money and a lot more resources, but everything started to become slow and become really just kind of a cookie cutter approach to what they do. Everything that they do is based on a certain way of operating, and it didn't include all of the dynamic things that we were doing independently. So I had the situation where I was basically battling every day, trying to get them to do the basic things that we were doing really well independently. And just saying to them like, hey, this is working really well. Why can we not just do more? You have the resources and the money. How about we just put more money into the things that we were doing independently? And they would just say that, I'm sorry, but this isn't how we operate. We have our systems that we use, and this is what we do. So it was a really frustrating time when that happened. And but the exciting thing for me was that I was working in the major record labels and seeing that they were not able to actually do the things that we were doing independently ourselves. And so it was frustrating because the band I was working with were in the system. But on the other side, I was thinking to myself, if this is the best of the best, it won't take much to do a lot better than what they can do. And so that was when I developed the next project, the Hunter, which is the project that I took them from playing their first show in March 2016 to 250 people. Within 18 months of that show, they were playing to 10,000 in London. And they had no fans, they had no audience at all. And we went from 250 to 1,100 to 2,500 to 3,500 to 10,000 in London over an 18-month window. And we did this by changing the model. So instead of having all these different entities that would control different parts, we control all of the business. So we were operating as the label, the manager, the publisher, the merchandiser, the live promoter. We were hiring the venues, we were selling the tickets ourselves, and we were able to make the perfect plan. And so because we were able to make the perfect plan, it allowed us to go and get these crazy outcomes that the industry cannot get because the system is too convoluted and too fragmented. So that was a big turning point to actually prove a different model. And so what questions do you have about this part? Because I've gone through a lot here already.
I think, well, I'm just more so frustrated. I feel that your frustration I felt because we're both artists ourselves, and like I'm more so like a recording artist. I don't really do the performing anymore like I used to. I did travel up and down the East Coast quite a bit after college and did that. but
Yeah.
it's just really tiring, like just dealing with people, and especially on the independent side, you have to do everything, and I couldn't keep up with that. And then like the egos, the narcissism, I was over it. So it's like the people killed it for me. The people around me too killed it for me, because it was all just like the industry. I feel like it's just an ego game, because like you said, there's no reason the process that you were presenting that was working. Any real business person would say, of course, we're going to fund what you're already doing and boost this. That's just basic business. The reason
Yes.
we didn't do that is because they already had someone else, and it's really a way to keep control, I feel like, because they already have their mindset on who they want to be this famous, and you're not going to get as famous no matter how big you are independently if they don't want you to be. And like, I don't like that concept, because that's gatekeeping. And I'm so thankful for where we are in society now, that you really can be independent and make it, and like really fully live a great, life doing what you love to do. um but this has been going on for the past 10 years. Where do you see the music industry heading? And where do you see yourself heading with the artists that you work with and future endeavors?
Yeah, to your point about the system and the ego, it's very much, you're correct. The whole system it's really interesting, because it's like every part of the industry, from like the people on the reception at the offices all the way to the top. It's like everyone's ego is in a position of the highest level of vulnerability. So everyone is worrying about, if they make a mistake, they may lose their job. They're worried about trying to get recognition for the work that they're doing. They're worried about not going up and building their own empire in the system. And so you end up in a situation where there's not togetherness. You have a situation where it's everyone working, they're all out for themselves, they're all out for themselves independently. And definitely a lot of this is by design, because they want to, the powers that be, they want to make sure that they maintain the control like they have been able to. And the truth is that there's a lot of artists out there in the world who have the talent, and not many music companies that have the means to be able to actually fund an artist to actually get the outcomes. And so they have taken advantage of that from the very beginning of the way they structured their business models. And we're now in a situation where, for sure, independence has been a really great thing, but the truth is that if an artist really wants to make a huge impact in the world, they do need to have a team around them that can help them do this, and they need to have financial resources to be able to really add gas to what's already working, to get them to a place where they can actually make that impact. And you know, there are not many stories out there in the world of artists that have done it independently. There's often an illusion that they have, and an illusion that they're trying to project a story that they've done it by themselves. But often, when you actually delve in and you go behind the scenes, you find that actually they have the traditional components. They're there. Often they'll have a label in place. They'll have managers, agents, promoters, everyone else that you can imagine. They're all part of the system that they have in place, but they're kind of creating an illusion that they're doing it by themselves. So, to your point about like where I'm heading now, is that I really believe that artists need they need to have the support at the level a major label would support them, in a situation where they can actually have the same level of support of a major, but they can actually still have the same level of creativity and creative freedom by being independent, and be treated in a way where the label or the music company that's behind them is being fair to them in terms of the equity that's being shared in the creation of the joint endeavor. Okay, so it's working much more as a partnership, and saying, look, we're going to invest into you, we're going to give you the resources you need, we're going to give you the support you need, and we're going to create a partnership where it's like a marriage, and we're going to work with you over a long period of time to be in a position where we'll back you when the sun is shining, and we'll especially back you when the storm is here and it's really difficult. We'll be there for you at all times, providing you are also prepared to do what's necessary, prepared to do the work that's necessary, prepared to also stick with the plan, you know, to stay loyal to what we're trying to achieve, so that we can actually make the biggest possible impact with the art that you create, and with the influence that you can also exert on your audience because of the fact that you are an artist. Because as an artist, you automatically are in a situation where people are looking up to you, because being an artist is an incredibly bold thing to be, especially an artist that's bold enough to put art in the world and actually back themselves to promote the art and push it out there in front of people. And so it's kind of, you know, the vision that I have is building a music company that has the entire ecosystem, from the point of view of developing an artist all the way through to breaking an artist on a global scale. And not just looking at building superstars, but also building artists that, you know, maybe the genre they have is a lot more limited, but they can still get to maybe tens of millions in revenue, not maybe hundreds of millions in revenue. Maybe getting to $1 million per year would be a really great start point for them to then build on incrementally over time. But maybe the genre of the music is just a little bit more refined, a bit more niche, but the genre that they create and the people that they connect with, they really want the music. And so creating a situation where you have the combination of different types of artists, you know, you have artists that are able to go on a global scale, and they're able to connect and get to stadiums in the end, through to artists on the lower level that they can become viable, they can become sustainable to a place where year on year they're growing a bit more. They're growing from 1 million to 1.2 million to 1.5 million, so on. So I believe that today we're better placed than ever to be able to be in a position to create a music company like this. And so this is the last 5 years I've been working towards building, not building it, but working out how to build it, what is required, how do we do it. That's what I've been working on. And so the last 5 years I have dedicated myself to this, and right now, as I stand right now today, I'm ready to start to execute on the plan towards making this happen, to build the biggest and fairest music company in the world.
So what do you want to do that's going to be like, well, you've already explained what's going to be different, but what's like a personal goal with you, for you, with your company?
I think that going back to the beginning, when I first decided to get into music, it was very much a case of this kind of a desire to always be improving, always looking to become the best version of myself, always looking to improve the delivery of what I was doing, so that I could always be in a position where when people came back into our bakery business that we had then, they would always be like, there's always some new products, there's always an improvement happening inside of here. Okay. Coming to the music space, it was the same thing. It's like, I believe that as a human being, we should always be creating, we should always be following our curiosity, we should always be looking at, just because what we did today looks exceptional, the fact that we did it today means that tomorrow we can do it better because of what we learned today. And so in terms of this music company, from a personal point of view, it's to connect with every human on earth in the end, and to be in a position where the music that the artists are creating and the artists themselves, they are influencing the audience towards becoming the best version of themselves. And so this is not just about growing any type of artist. This is about finding artists that are not just making amazing art, but they are amazing human beings. And amazing human beings just on a very basic level of having respect for the people who are working with them, understanding that the art that they're creating is art that's designed to serve the audience and make their life better. And having a big ambition which is also is equally backed up by action towards making that ambition become a reality. So this is also about developing artists, and from the point of view of not just on the talent side of it, but also developing their minds to see the world differently, to open up their minds to the possibility that day by day, with the work that they do, with the audiences they're connecting to, and the art that they're creating, whether the art is the music itself or the content or the messages they're putting out there, they can lift the consciousness of all of the people that they're connecting with. Okay, and so imagine if you build a roster of artists that you do this, and you keep on growing them, and you keep on releasing music from artists that are coming from this place, and you do that at scale to the end point where there's enough artists in the roster that are connecting with every human on earth. The end outcome for that is that you will lift the consciousness of everyone, and you will improve the entire world. So that's my personal reason for what I do.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I don't feel like I hear a lot of people in the music industry or artists like talk, well, I hear artists sometimes talk about that, but like in the music industry, whenever you talk or like hear interviews with executives or people like that, I don't feel like I ever hear that. So I think that's amazing. That's beautiful, because I do feel like that's what music is about. It's supposed to touch people and help people feel, seen and heard, feel better, and want to be their best selves. So I like that. And also, I wanted to ask you, what do you expect from an artist, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think that's in terms of what I expect from an artist. I'm focused on artists understanding the importance of their developing themselves more than anything else. Because if they develop themselves towards improving their performance in every way, everything else will be easier in terms of the creativity that they're putting into their music. And so for me, it's very much focused on artists who are not they're not self-serving. They want to serve the audience, and finding those artists that are showing the signs that they may not be fully complete yet, but in terms of this idea, but they will be showing signs that they're prepared to develop themselves on a human level towards an objective of becoming, if you like, an elite human being, towards fulfilling their purpose, fulfilling the capability that they have in the work that they do out there in the world, and in making the biggest impact possible with the art that they create and with their influence.
Nice. Wow.
I'm just saying that the countdown is coming up on the
Yeah. Do you have time if I send like a new? I'm sorry, we've been trying to go through different like platforms.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so in regards to artists, what I'm looking for in artists, the music business is very traditionally, and even more so today than ever, is very much focused on vanity metrics. It's like, how many followers do you have? How many streams do you have? Are you going viral on TikTok? The vanity metrics is what drives their decision making. It's like, if an artist doesn't have those metrics, then they're not going to be interested to work with you. So that's how they operate. But my vision for a new music company is one that is focused not on the vanity metrics, is focused on what I call the people metrics. So finding artists that how should we say, like they're heart set, like they're coming from the heart, they're focused on making the biggest impact with the art that they create, and understanding that the art that they create is to serve the audience that they connect with, and the audience they connect with themselves and with the brand that they create is looking to them to be an influence in their lives, and so it's growing artists that are having a positive influence in people's lives rather than a negative influence in people's lives. And so let's face it, music has and always will shape culture, and if you consider some of the lyrics and some of the places where music is coming from, a lot of the time it's coming from dark places. And so people are receiving those vibrations and they're receiving it in a dark way, which is not necessarily good for them. You know, they're receiving music. So my vision is to grow artists and develop artists so that their minds are in a place where they're focusing on being the best version of themselves in every way imaginable, with the intention of serving the audience that they are connecting with at a level to help the audience to become the best version of themselves, inspire them to do that through their influence and through the art that they create.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I love that so much because we don't really hear much of that. And I feel like it's all about connecting. And in the world right now, we definitely need like a lot of people who can uplift like the consciousness with on a more positive note. Because I feel like online you see like a lot of negativity, like Ellie, you were talking about earlier. There's like a lot of negativity online. And I just feel like people see too many bad things and how like with music, you know, if it's coming from somebody's heart and it's kind of dark, you know, I get it. But then I feel like there are like a lot of people who only want to listen to that genre of music and then they don't understand how to balance it out. And then it can be very detrimental to their mental health sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, this is not just about the artist, this is about the entire ecosystem. So it's also about the team members that come into the ecosystem that are working with the artists. They are also coming from a place that is focusing on being the best version of themselves to inspire the artists and everyone around the artist to also be the best version of themselves. And so you can imagine that if you have an entire roster of artists that you build at scale across every genre of music in different countries around the world, in the end, you can be in a situation where the music from the ecosystem is connecting with everybody on Earth. And so if you have enough artists that are pushing music out there with this positive intentions, then you can raise the consciousness for everyone on Earth and you can make the world a better place for all of us.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a big idea because it is, but it's actually not complicated.
No, not at all.
That's another thing. What do you think are some necessary evils that comes with playing the game of the music industry?
I don't think that there should be a compromise on. I think that the things that I'm talking about here, I believe that the ecosystem that I envisioned is one that there are no compromises. There are no necessary evils. It might sound like too much of an ideal for this to be a reality, but I believe that there's no reason why there should be a compromise. You know, the values that an artist should have and as a human being and what they should live by, they should not have to compromise on those values. And nor should anyone who's operating inside of the ecosystem. The ecosystem should be there to support them towards being able to live in the best way that they can and to be the best version of themselves. And so I don't see that there needs to be a space for a necessary evil. You know, for me, a necessary evil is compromising on the integrity to what I'm talking about here of being the best version of yourself. If you have to compromise by adopting some of your actions towards necessary evils, then you're not being true with integrity to being the best version of yourself. So, of course, that does not talk about the existing system. The existing system, if you want to operate in the existing system, then you have to compromise on everything because the system is the system. They're not going to, as you said it earlier, they're not going to give you a platform unless you completely are prepared to follow what they say, to follow what they how they operate. And if you don't follow that, they're not going to amplify you. They're not going to amplify you. And if you show any signs that you're not prepared to follow what they dictate you to follow, then they're not going to get behind you. They're just going to park you there so you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's a very interesting time because the industry itself, the music business itself, especially the major record labels, they are very much focused on the history of music. They're focused on the catalogs that they own that are generating a lot of money for them. And they're buying catalogs from legacy artists that are proven in the marketplace. And they're not focusing on investing into new talent in the way that they have in the past. And so, in fact, they are starting to scale back a lot of their frontline labels so that they're investing only into the catalog. Okay. So the big opportunity is to develop artists from the ground up that are from the very beginning, the intention is to be the best version of themselves, so that as they grow and they start scaling, this is where they're coming from. They're coming from a place of positivity, not a place of negativity, and build these artists so that in the future, the labels may currently own the history of music, but they will not own the future. And so we have the opportunity to build the future because they're not going to build the future.
Wow. Wow, it's a lot to take in because I just feel like the industry, a lot of artists at first, when they're independent and then they have that help and then their name gets out there, a lot of us like their music. And then as they progress in the industry, they work with like a lot of people who just control every single thing that they do, to where I feel like it becomes less of passion and art and more of just the industry, money making. And
Yeah.
it just sucks. I don't like as an outsider, I just think it like sucks, like seeing that.
Yeah, and that is the way that it is. It's the system is brutal. It just is, and so the big opportunity is to create an entirely new system where you don't have the compromise, where you can have, for every artist that you work with, you can have plan A, you can execute plan A, and you can be in a position where you're able to connect with audiences at scale all over the world, and you're able to build a relationship with them through social media and through content, to a place where they want to come to shows and they want to come and experience in person because they have that connection with the artist. And so in this vision, there will be some parts of the vision where there will be a need to work with the existing system. So things like venues, working with venues, and working with big players who own venues. That will definitely be a part of the ecosystem that we're building, is that we'll have to attach to those things because they own the infrastructure. At the same time, they also would like to have their venue full of people that want to come to see an artist. So if we have artists where people want to come to see them, we will also have the ability to go and hire these venues from the big players. Rather than them controlling the show, we'll control the show. We'll control some of the ticketing, we'll control some of the components for that show, so that we are able to maintain the integrity to the vision and the ecosystem that we're building at our end.
Wow.
So to ask a bit about what inspired to write the article, well, everything we talked about, but what inspired the article that kind of went viral for you online?
Yeah, there's kind of, I've got a few articles that have moved, but I presume you're referring to there's one interview that I did, which is one that I did in 2018, which was titled I realize that no one in the music business knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
The follow-up to that is the one that I wrote myself. So that one was an interview on Music Business Worldwide. That's the biggest B2B music industry publication in the world. Everyone reads that in business. So that went viral. And then the follow-up to that was one that I wrote myself, which was I realized that no one in the music business knows what they're doing, part 2, which is just me writing about that on my own blog, The Baker Says, talking about all the things that I've found in addition to what was in the original piece, and really also outlining the seeds. Yeah, you read that one. So in that article, I'm also talking about, I'm seeding the vision and the mission for High Time, the music company that I'm about to reboot imminently. I'm talking about the way that we're going to build it and the values of the music company versus the existing system. So I wrote that piece as a seed for people to start to understand what's coming, and then just generally the blog that I have, as an outlet to be able to communicate my vision to the audience, which is a combination of artists, people who work in the existing system, and the general public. Do you have questions specifically about the piece that you would like to ask, Ali?
Well, I mean, because not really, because pulling those pieces around throughout this whole conversation.
Yes.
Um, but it's just more so like I wanted to know the idea behind it. I mean, obviously I felt the same way. So I wanted to know. And then like now you just kind of trigger, like you said, the baking, and I was like, the baker says, because when I was reading it, I was like, is this a real website? I was like, whose website? Why is this a music article on this website? I should be looking at a recipe of sort. But no, I get it now. Everything makes sense. Thank you for tying that together. When it comes to new artists and what from artist development back in the day to what it is now, what do you think? What is artist development now? Because a lot of it has to be a lot of self-development, I would assume.
Yeah,
with
I think that fundamentally it's an artist. What makes an artist be successful in the first place? There's obviously lots of different layers to this, but the prerequisite thing that you need to have songs that are going to resonate and connect with people at scale. So really it's very simple. If you don't have songs that are really connecting with people in any way or form, then you're really in a position where you're not putting your best foot forward to be able to actually connect with other people. So until you have these songs, you really should focus on that part first. And so a big part of my journey has been, when I was working with the band I told you about earlier, the Hunter, I really developed them in a very systematic way of getting them to hyper focus their energy on the thing that mattered today, and not worrying about what's gone past us, the past, and not worry about the future. So focusing on, if they are in the stage of writing the songs, then they're focusing on only working on the songs and getting the songs. And if once they have the songs, now they're focused on pre-production and getting ready to go in the studio and making sure they're rehearsed and making sure they're ready to go in the studio and really put their best foot forward in the studio, so that they're really able to exert their energy on the thing that matters right now, okay? And then all the way through to creating the brand DNA around the artist, the components of their brand that will help them to connect with the audience, making sure that every part of that is the best it can be, but only focusing on each step of that part when you're in the step, not before and not after. Like, you need to focus on it at the very moment that you're there, okay? So for me, artist development in today's world should be very methodical in terms of understanding what are the foundation stones that must be in place in order to be successful. And over the last 5 years, I've been working towards creating a framework to actually help artists to understand what parts do they need to do to be able to be in a position where, when they're starting to become front facing, if you like, they're starting to release their music, they're starting to create content, they're able to be in a position where every day they're connecting with more people with the art they're creating, and the content that they're making is building relationships with people in a way where they can just be confident to keep executing, because they know they have the foundation stones for their house in place. So now they can build the house, and they can keep building and building and building and building, knowing that no matter how big they build it, the house is not going to tumble. Okay, so I've built this framework called the Artist Success Pathway. And the Artist Success Pathway is a pathway that gives artists a guide on knowing what are the steps to be successful. And if an artist follows this pathway fully, and they follow it completely, and they follow the guidelines on each part, they will be in a position where, when they start to execute, they will, with certainty, be able to start connecting with the target audience that they are trying to connect with. Now, the key thing to this is they must follow it. And most artists, they have a tendency to want to skip the steps. They have a tendency to, which is not just artists, it's any human being. The natural tendency is that I want to skip to the end. What can I do to create shortcuts to get to the end? Now, that won't work, because these components in the success pathway, they are fundamental truths. They are things that you must have. And if you don't have them, the chances of being successful are diminished. Every single thing you have not got in place. So it's a very it's an exciting thing, because artists, if they follow the process, they will get to a position where they are ready to really put their best foot forward. And the objective for us in the music company that I'm creating, High Time, is that we're going to take artists through. I have a program that I've created called the High Time Engine Plus program, which is basically a program that over a 6-month period, we help artists to lay the foundation stones in their business to be ready to start executing and start connecting with people at scale. And the prerequisite for them to come into the program is they must first have songs that are good enough or whatever level that are actually creating a connection with people. If they don't have that, they should keep on working on the songs. But if they do, this program is designed to give them everything they need: a brand DNA, a strategic plan, a content plan, a content strategy, a marketing plan, a sales process to be able to collect income from people, okay? All the way through to being ready to be able to start executing. So the success pathway has 6 major steps. And one of the steps also that's not really a step is more of an ongoing process, which is continually developing yourself, continually improving yourself, having your mindset, developing your mindset, improving yourself on a personal level as an ongoing process to be able to be the best version of yourself at all times. But being able to guide artists through this process of, if you don't yet have your brand DNA finished, don't start making your strategic plan. You need to get this done first. You get that done first. And throughout the brand DNA, you work on each section one by one, and you don't go to the next section until you have that section finished. So it's like getting them to focus on each step, putting all of their energy into each step to do their best work, because these are foundation stones. And the key thing to understand is that they're one and done. Once you build the foundations, you're not going to go back and recreate them again because they are there. You're only going to recreate them again if they're not good enough. If the foundation stones are not good enough, they will crumble at some point. So you're going to have to go back and try and repair them. That's more difficult when you've already built the house. So the art success pathway is a really exciting component to the ecosystem that I'm about to start creating. So it's going to give us a situation where this program that we've created, the High Time Engine Plus program, is a program that over 6 months, we're also going to get a chance to spend time with artists to actually see whether their values are aligned to our values. Are they listening? Are they being respectful to the team that's helping them? Are they showing us that the art that they're creating is to serve the audience, or are they trying to serve themselves? And I mentioned earlier, like the metrics that we're looking at are people metrics, not vanity metrics. And so as part of the ecosystem, we're building what I'm calling a people metric system, which is basically a system where we're going to monitor every communication, whether it be on a Zoom call, whether it be on an email or a DM or comments on a project management system. We're going to analyze all of this stuff, okay? We're going to analyze it across different metrics across every single conversation. We're going to use humans to do this and AI to do this. So we're going to be in a position where across the 6-month period, we're going to have all these different touch points, communication points, where we can get a picture of what their score is inside of our people metric system. And the ones that have a score that's high enough, we will go to them and say, you've proven to us that you are ready to form a partnership with us. And this is what a partnership will look like for you. And a partnership will look like for you is that if we partner with you, we will invest into you. We will support you towards making the biggest impact possible. And we will do everything that we can to help you to get to where you want to get to. And as I was saying earlier, we'll be with you when the sun is shining, especially when the storm is here. We'll be by your side. So the idea of this is that if we partner with an artist, we're committing for the long term. They are committing for a long term. It's like a marriage that we're creating with them. And it really has to be a doomsday event for us to say we're going to separate the marriage. It has to be something major that's happened for us to want to separate. If that doesn't happen, we're just going to keep on going. If in this ecosystem, as I build this, if the finance people say, oh, this artist is not making enough money yet, we're just going to say it doesn't matter. We know what we have. We know we have an artist that they do have the values that are aligned. They are doing what is necessary. We're not quite where we want to be, but we know if we just continue, we will get there. We will get there in the end.
Yeah. Wow. Taking a new approach to things.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. So like we talked earlier, like before the chat, Carl, about how ever since you were like 10 years old, you wanted to be an entrepreneur. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I kind of Norwich is a really nice city, but where I lived was kind of more like the hood, if you like, in the UK. It's like more, it was a lot more rough. Like people were, a lot of the kids I grew up with, they were getting into no good. They were, stealing cars and breaking into people's houses and robbing people and stuff like this. And so I actually grew up being a Jehovah Witness. So I grew up being a Jehovah Witness,
But
and
really? Me too.
yeah. Oh, really?
I'm not anymore, but I grew up. Oh wow.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was like being a Jehovah Witness really protected me from being going into these people and being part of that community. So it stopped me from being in that situation, and it also taught me uh, to accept rejection. Knocking on people's doors, trying to sell the truth, trying to sell the watchtower to
Not the worst.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah, trying to sell that to people, and most people saying no, go away on a Sunday morning when they're trying to chill.
exactly.
Um, it taught me how to sell. It taught me how to sell, and it taught me how to take rejection and so on. So when I was like 10 or 11, I decided that I would build a car washing business, and so I went to the houses that had the biggest houses with the most cars, and I would go knock on the doors and do deals with those houses to wash all of their cars. And I used to have friends coming with me cleaning the cars, and I'd just go out there and get all the business. And so from a very, very young age, I knew about selling. I knew about if you give people value, you get money for that.
Yeah.
And so that's been really in me from a young age. And so along my journey, I got involved in the bakery business with the family business, and was involved in growing that business from a small shop to multiple shops, and a wholesale business, and sandwich trucks that would go to businesses and sell products, to the point where, like I said, not having like a situation with the family where they didn't they didn't have the same alignment to me to the future. I wanted to keep growing. I wanted to get more shops. I wanted to get more. I wanted to grow. I wanted to conquer the world with this thing, but they didn't want to. So I didn't have alignment with that. So that's when I got involved in the music space, and I'm in my 15th year now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many like artists or groups are you working with currently?
Well, as of right now, the last 5 years, I've been focusing on a few different areas. Okay, so one area was like, if you want to build the biggest and fairest music company in the world, you need a lot of capital to do this. It's like the major labels, they make billions of dollars every year. So they can when an artist is moving, they can put a lot of money behind them and really invest at scale, and they have resources all over the world and so on. Okay. So one part of this is working out how to fund it. How do you fund it? How do you make sure you have the money?
Yeah.
And now a part of that too is, how do you fund it without compromising the integrity to the vision? So how do you get money without being in a position where after 5 years of building, you have to sell the company, because the people that came in, like the VCs, they want their money. They want to get the exit. Okay. So, and I've seen in the music space, all of the independent companies that have grown to a certain level, after 5 to 7 years, they end up getting purchased by one of the major record labels, be Warner Music or Sony Music or Universal. One of them will get bought. One of those companies will buy them, okay? Because the VCs that are investing, they want their exit. They put in 10 million at the beginning. Now they want 100 million or 500 million exit. They want that money. They want that part, okay? So I didn't want to build this music company in a way where I would have to compromise on the vision and the integrity to the vision. So I've been working out, how do I do this? How do I be in a position where I can make sure that as I start scaling artists, I can fund them without having to sell to the system, without having to compromise the integrity by having to go into the system. Because I've done all of that. I've worked with major record labels, I've worked with independents, I've done all these things. I don't want to do that again. I want to build an entire new ecosystem that doesn't rely on any of those existing systems. So the funding part was one part, okay? And so as of right now, which only came to me in May of this year, I know how to do that part. I know how to be in a position where I can have the money. Okay. The other part is how do you create a situation where you can serve artists in the development process? As you were saying earlier, Ali, it's like artists need to be able to know where they should put their energy to develop themselves. So education is a part of that. Another part of that is giving people services to help to guide them, to give them resources, to guide them to a place where they can actually get to the next step. So things like the High Time Engine Plus program, that's designed in a way where over 6 months, artists are being taken through the process. They haven't got to just go and try and work out how to do it themselves. Every week they're getting given a guide on how to do what they need to do that week. So that was the thing I need to work out. So I figured that part out. Okay. And so this next chapter is, and then also how do I be in a position where at scale, as I have artists in the ecosystem, how do I be in a system where a situation where I can find artists that are aligned on the people metrics? So this is where the people metric system idea came into force. So I've been developing this concept to the place where we're about to start building software to allow us to, when the system will say that an artist is ready, they will be ready. And we will know they're ready. It won't be based on gut feeling or any of the stuff. It will be based on all these different touch points over a long period of time, at least 6 months, where we're getting a picture. You know, these are the artists that are doing it. These are the artists that are listening. And it will detect things like if they get on a Zoom call and they're disrespectful to the team members and they didn't turn up on time and they didn't do what was necessary, the system will start to reduce their score and all of it automatically. So being in a position where, one, you can finance it, two,